Okay. Oh shit, I landed harder than I thought. Anyways, listen. You can get stronger in the gym even if you're dealing with pain. You just have to learn how to manage it. And here's the thing, in previous video, we talked about how to monitor pain in the gym and just make sure that we're in a safe zone. But now we can actually talk about how to manage it with actual tactics that we can use to get stronger. Because the pain is there, but learning how it responds to your choices in the gym can be an absolute game changer, or it can keep you stuck and keep you weak. So how pain behaves in the context of our workouts, we can use that as information to make the workouts better. And the cool thing is, as you are figuring these things out, as you're managing the pain you've been monitoring, you're gonna get stronger. But if you hold yourself back and you let this pain be the ankle weight that stops you from moving, the ball and chain that holds you in place, that's when you start to risk getting weak. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you the framework that I use with all of my clients that are dealing with chronic pain in the gym to not only manage it, but also make PRs and get stronger. And remember, this is a framework, not a recipe or a specific program, because those are very, very specific issues that might help one person, but misses a whole pool of other people. If we understand this framework, or if we understand this way of approaching managing pain in the gym, we can get super creative when different issues come up. You can use this exact same framework or idea in multiple different contexts in the gym for multiple different pains that you're dealing with anywhere in your body. Like I said, I use it with all of my patients. I'm a physical therapist and a strength and conditioning coach, so a lot of these things are blended ways that we can keep people moving while managing pain in the gym. So with that being said, let's talk about this 5-part idea that gets us being able to manage pain in the gym to let us get stronger.
Don't worry, Justin has a medical disclaimer that this is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
There are 5 parts to this idea. I'm intentionally going to save the second part for the end of this video. And this is because everyone tries to do it. They go on Instagram, social media, whatever. They try to find these magic bullet exercises and put these pieces together. They don't know how to coach it, and the person delivering the video doesn't even know what they're talking about. So half the time you're getting garbage in and garbage out. So let's just save it for the end because it is a very important part, but the other parts are just as important, if not more important, than the second one. Oh, but Justin, why is it the second one? Why don't you just make it the last one? Because it's number 2, because this is the second step of how I would view things to see what we can do to manage pain in the gym. And actually, one more thing before we start. I hear this all the time. Justin, why don't I just rest for X amount of time that my doctor said and get back to the gym afterwards? I will tell you why. Because the time you spend resting, thinking that it's going to get the pain to calm down, which it might, you are reassuring or you're reinstating in your body that it is dangerous to move with pain. Now here's the thing. If you try to move with pain and we do so successfully using this 5-step framework, oh my God, you're going to notice that it will reassure your body that, hey, it's safe to move with pain. Let's just figure out what pain we can move with and what context we can move that pain through. You don't want to reinforce the message that pain is bad to move with, because then you will start to this negative feedback loop of pain is bad, I must stop moving, but I stop moving, my body feels worse, so I try to move, but it feels bad, so I stop moving, and then you see where I'm going? But if we break that cycle and we try to encourage the body to move in painful times, you can start to realize you can get injuries rehabbed a lot faster, you can still maintain your strength, and you can still feel good about moving your body while addressing the discomfort you're having. Step 1 in this framework, before we even think about modifying pain or moving through different steps or whatever, you have to assess and not guess about what's going on. And this is probably the most intimidating step, where it's like, Justin, I have no idea what the hell pain is. Like, I don't want to mess things up, make things worse. Here's the thing. There are plenty of physical therapists and strength coaches, myself included, that will be able to help at least screen or assess people to make sure that the pain you are training with is not something that needs to be medically managed, right? Because these cases do exist where, say, you do have a gym injury and it leads to something called cauda equina syndrome. Like, for example, cauda equina syndrome is a nerve compression in a very specific nerve root in your back that can mess with the private parts. And obviously that is not good. And that is a very, 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 very rare case, but it does happen. So when we see signs and symptoms of cauda equina, you're not even talking to me, you're going to the emergency room. And you have to remember, things like that, they are scary, but they are super, super rare. So when you know the signs and symptoms to look out for, and as you know and you learn about the pain that you're dealing with currently, rule out the scary stuff. And once that's done, you reassure yourself that you're going to be okay. And remember, assess, don't guess, and make sure that what you're dealing with has nothing to do with any of the scary stuff that would need further medical assistance. And if you are concerned like, Justin, I don't know how to do that, reach out. Talk to a physical therapist, talk to a qualified healthcare professional that can help you screen these things. Preferably someone that understands what you're going through and understands what you do as a lifter in the gym. Because like I said, time and time again, you will hear doctors say rest for 3 months and then try again, with no plan to return you to the gym or no plan on how to manage the stuff we're going to talk about in this video. So now, framework part 2. Just kidding. Like I said, I'm skipping this until the end. Haha, that was stupid. I don't know why I did that. But we are going to come back to it. Let's talk about number 3. Managing or modifying load, also known as finding the intensity trigger. So this is super simple. Once you ruled out the scary stuff, now we're getting to the crux of something where it's like, hey, I was doing X activity at Y weight and it led to Z result, XYZ. You start to identify, is there a load that triggers my pain? And is there a load that helps me stay tolerable within my pain? And that's the thing. Does adjusting the load help your pain, right? Like if I'm doing the 315 squat and that sucks, and I try 300 squat and it sucks, and I try 275 and it still sucks, some people might give up there and say, oh, no, I'm screwed. Keep going. I promise you it is better than stopping. If you try and find maybe 135 or even 95, even empty bar, if those full range of motion movements at X weight feels tolerable, it's worth doing, right? And that's pretty much all we have to talk about. It's literally, does lowering the weight make you feel better? You don't have to change form. You don't have to change exercise selection, anything like that. You just lower the weight. And if that makes you feel good, stay at that weight. And then in like 2 or so weeks, reassess and see if you can try and bump up the weight a little bit. Or you can use like a plethora of other programming options like ascending sets, descending sets, rep, drop, whatever, to potentially create a better programming environment that lets the weight climb up over time. Now let's talk about part 4, distance. This is a range of motion trigger. So this is what you would tag in if changing the load is just not happening right now. Like even at empty bar, even at body weight, it just sucks. And it's a very real thing. Sometimes it's just these things hurt. And no matter what weight you choose, it just sucks. That's where modifying the amount of motion you are moving through helps a ton, right? So if changing the weight doesn't help, but cutting some depth off your squat or not lowering the barbell as low to your chest as you normally would with a bench press, if those things feel better, train that. It's basically letting the range of motion that's bothering you kind of just chill out for a bit while still training, and then reintroducing it slowly over time. Just because we are modifying the programming itself and the way that we're executing the plan does not mean it's not going to get us stronger, right? This does not mean the only purpose of these things is to help manage the pain, which is a very big part of why we're doing this. But understand, you are still training. You're still moving, you're still pushing weights, you're getting stronger. All right, and the final part of this framework, part 5, is exercise variation. This is like, hey man, I love my squat, I love my bench press, deadlift, over press, whatever, but no matter how much weight I take off, no matter how much depth I cut or range of motion I manage, it's just still too painful to even want to try. This is where we're like, all right, tag them out. Let's try a different exercise in the same family. And I think a cool way you can view this is like if we have the brother and sister of the squat and the deadlift, or the brother and sister of the bench press and the overhead press, you can view those things on a spectrum of movement. For the squat and the deadlift, you have the squat pattern and the hinge pattern. And then for the bench press and the overhead press, you have the horizontal push and the vertical push. And there are tons of exercises in between these different types of movement options that you can train as a variation. Right, so this example I'll give you is a very real one. So with my chronic pain in the gym, I have a hard time deadlifting. And whenever I tweak my back off the floor of a deadlift, that will take a decent amount of time to recover from. But like I said, this doesn't mean that I'm going to stop training. I'm going to modify things. So a cool progression that I have some people follow when they're trying to get back to deadlifting off the floor is we would introduce something called block pulls or rack pulls, where it's intentionally leaving off the bottom part of the deadlifts, but still training that pulling strength. And then we just work that lower and lower until we reach the floor. And then this, depending on someone's availability with equipment, we can actually add chains to the deadlift bar itself. Now, if you can visualize this, as the chains are kind of on the floor, they're not really weighted. If you can imagine like the weights on the side of the barbell, as soon as they leave the floor, you're lifting that weight. The thing with chains is that as they're melted into the floor, as you lift up, some of the chains are still on the floor, so it gets heavier as you move through more of the range of motion, which works super well because I have pain off the floor of the deadlift, so I can make things intentionally lighter at the bottom part of the deadlift, and then it gets heavier and heavier as I get towards more tolerable parts of the deadlift, which is the lockout. And then as that feels good, I take the chains away and I introduce pause deadlifts because I don't want that absolute load to get too high just yet, so I intentionally limit that by adding the pause, but it also trains my ability to tolerate getting strong off the floor, marinating with that a little bit and then going up. And then you wrap it all up with the regular deadlift of your choice. Full range of motion as you would normally before you got hurt. And you can see that's a practical example of considering how far away did I have to find a variation away from this main lift that I'm trying to get back to, and you just reverse engineer it to get back to that main thing. And that's it. See, you know, I'm trying to think of something like punny and fun. I can't think of anything. Be like, oh, Justin, you forgot number 2. I did not forget. Right? This is YouTube intentional. Number 2, feel good movements. But Justin, what you just talk about exercise variation? Is that not a feel good movement? Yes, but there's a reason that it's number 2 in the framework, because as a physical therapist, there are potential exercise choices, not necessarily things that'll get you stronger, but things that could help the environment of your body perform better. And this comes down to the assessment of step 1, right? Like say if you're going through your like self-assessment and you notice, hey, my hip feels way tighter than before. Maybe that's something playing a role in my pain right now. Is there anything I can do tolerably to help free up that hip tightness to get me stronger, right? It's like, what exercise choices or warm-up options do I know that help free up some movement to let me do those other previous steps a lot better? I usually aim for about like 2 to 3 of those. I plug it into my warm-up as more of a specific warm-up, and then I go into my general warm-up, which is like empty bar reps and then slowly progressing the weight up. So let's recap. Step 1, assess, don't guess. You need to know what's going on. Make sure it's within your scope of handling it. If not, find someone that can help you. Step 2, feel good movements. All right, I feel like shit, but I did my assessment and I see the things that could potentially help this feel better. Like whether it's hip internal rotation, lumbar flexion, all these fancy terms for just getting your body to move better. Are there things that I can do, certain exercises that free me up to make these next steps better? That's what you're going to do here as your warm-up before you go into the gym. Step 3, intensity trigger. Now that I'm in the gym, I'm moving a little bit better. What weight can I work up to that doesn't piss things off? Or what's the weight cap or load cap that I have that I do not want to pass because it's going to make things worse? I'm going to train underneath that. And then step 4, we have distance or our range of motion trigger. If the load thing doesn't work out, how much range of motion can I get as close as possible to the normal variation that still lets me train tolerably? And if that doesn't work, then we go into step 5, which is exercise variation. Are there other movements in this movement family that still allow me to train relatively close to the painful movement? And just remember to consider, however far away you are from the main movement itself, don't just skip to try and get back to it. You have to be methodical and slowly work your way back there. Because I will say this a million times over, by going through this framework that I use with all of my clients, you are reassuring your body that it is safe to train with pain. It could be the literal fork in the road between just moving through a flare-up and not having to deal with long-term consequences, or dealing with those long-term consequences and having chronic pain that just is with you for the rest of your life. Sounds depressing. And I work with a lot of patients with chronic pain. It is depressing because there's a reality of pain that no one talks about. It sucks to have to feel these things in an environment where you just want to have fun. I don't want to think about pain when I'm in the gym. But I deal with chronic pain, and when I go in the gym, I'm like, oh shit, I have pain with this, and that. It's like I'm at work again. And I love what I do for work, but there are times where I don't want to feel that bleed into every aspect of my life. Oh, I have to modify this position. I have to hinge here. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's a lot. So if you can learn anything from my journey, I need you to learn how to manage your pain in the gym. You can go to the other video to learn how to monitor pain in the gym, and look out for future videos that'll teach you how to assess pain in the gym, and eventually practical exercises and programming tips to learn how to train with pain in the gym. But none of that stuff matters if you don't learn this. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you have any questions about the framework or any specific questions about your specific issues, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me privately, and I would love to help you navigate what we talked about in this video. But if that's all we got for now, I'm very happy you made it to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I promise I will find better jokes to tell in the future. Just kidding, I can't promise anything.